This ode is dedicated to one of the greatest Luciferians of all time, the great light-bringer, Nikola Testla. Since the fall of the pharaonic era, humanity has plummeted into a dark age, and it wasn't until the 1800s that they began to rediscover the light, the power of the ether or electricity. It was the great Nikola Testla who brought forth the full power of the ether in 1888 with his patent on producing alternating current, which then went forward to light the whole world. Let's have a little look at some of this great man's wonderful achievements. As a young boy, Nikola Testla fell into a fever where he received visions and dreams that would enlighten him to a future technology that he would produce. After much struggle, he arrived in America with nothing but the shirt on his back, his ideas, and a letter of introduction to a man named Edison. Edison was an electrical engineer who had developed the concept of DC electric. However, there were various problems with his technology. For example, every few miles it was needed a new power generator to boost the signal, therefore making long-distance electrical transmission an impossibility. Nikola Tesla went to work helping Edison improve some of his ideas. However, the two eventually parted ways. There, Nikola Tesla found himself working back on the streets until he was discovered again by Westinghouse. After a miniature demonstration he had made of his AC electric system, Westinghouse was so impressed he immediately employed Tesla. Edison and Westinghouse were intense rivals, and this led to something we know today as the War of the Currents, which was eventually won by Nikola Tesla's AC electricity when he produced his hydroelectric power plant at Niagara Falls, lighting up the whole of the surrounding area. During this time, Tesla continued to develop experiments that would demonstrate the power of the ether, such as the egg of Columbus that would provide a motive force at a distance. He also produced an ozone generator that would go on to produce the ultraviolet ray machine, a health device that could cure people using electromagnetic energies. Additionally, he used the ozone to impregnate oils that he sold to medical practitioners for health benefits. And 1 year after the War of the Currents had terminated, Tesla proposed the wireless transmission of energy. Then, in 1988, Tesla produced a radio-controlled boat using something he called tele-automatics. This boat was demonstrated to the public, whereby it was met with skepticism and disbelief. Some people thinking that maybe Tesla was using some kind of magic or some kind of telepathy, or that even inside the boat there was a small monkey at the controls. Shortly after this, Tesla journeyed over to Europe and London to provide a demonstration at the Royal Society for his transmission of wireless technology, and this is where everything starts to go horribly wrong. Remember, at the time there was a furious argument going on in the scientific community as to whether light was a wave or a particle. The wave theorists believed in a concept of an ether, an energy that surrounded us, that could be tapped and used for energetic purposes. Tesla's experimentation showed that there was an existence, in fact, of some kind of ether through which the energetic waves of light could travel invisibly. And this would prove a serious problem for the particle physicists, who had their minds set on the idea that perpetual motion devices were impossible. Realizing the danger that Tesla's new experimental data had provided for the ether theorists, the particle physicists decided to get together with the oligarchy and do something about it. They turned to Poincaré, Minkowski, and Lorentz for a solution that would provide an alternative theory that would alter Maxwell's equations and lay the foundations for Einstein's theory of a photon particle of light. Meanwhile, Back in the US, Testa established a new experimental base in Colorado Springs to expand on some of his ideas of the transmission of wireless electricity. Through these experiments, he came to the conclusion that he would be able to power the whole world using the Earth's atmosphere to transmit wireless free energy to anywhere on planet Earth. In 1900s, he returned to New York to begin construction of the Warden Cliff Tower. To commence with the project, Testa needed more investment, and under the guise that he was producing a tower that would provide a transatlantic communication network, he turned to J.P. Morgan for help. Obviously, Testa had realized something from his experience in Europe that led him to be cautious at this time. The concept of transatlantic communication had grown considerably at the start of the 1900s, and a fierce competition for the first transmission was on. Then, in 1904, Marconi claimed that he had achieved this great feat and beaten Testa to the mark. Unfortunately, it was a lie. If we look at Marconi's experiments, it is clear that he was only using medium wave transmission. And we know nowadays that medium wave transmission is not strong enough to cross the Atlantic Ocean. That didn't stop the press from slandering Testa, saying that he had lost the battle for transatlantic communication.
Don't bother me about money. The workers should know that they'll be paid. We've got Morgan behind us.
Yes, Mr. Testla.
Mr. Testla, I've been instructed to show you this, just in case you didn't happen to see it.
Desperate to complete the project, Testa reapproached Morgan and explained the grandioseness of the project, that he would be transmitting wireless electricity everywhere on planet Earth. However, Morgan, fearing the financial loss that such a technology might cause, immediately withdrew the backing, and after that, no investor ever approached Testla again.
There was one promise with all the damn visions and lightning flashes of yours, one hard promise I thought I could count on. I was going to be able to send messages to distant places without any wires. And now, sure enough, the thing's been invented, but not by you, Testla, no. By some Italian here.
Marconi.
Whatever. Well, he's made some kind of box. He's talking to England with it, and I've got to buy patents from him. What if he did steal it from you? You're not the only one with ideas, you know. There's a Jew over in Germany.
Einstein. The whole scientific world is talking about that new theory of his.
And in Paris? What's that about Paris?
They have split the atom.
Whatever that means.
It could mean a whole new source of energy.
Such energy is created by destroying natural elements. That is a serious crime against nature, and one day it's going to bring on catastrophe. The world is at a crossroads right now, and if we pass up this chance, we shall be held responsible by future generations. Commodore, we send energy, all energy, to the outer shell of the Earth, the ionosphere. Energy from the sea, the wind, energy from the sun. We no longer need to burn or destroy anything. We simply take what already exists and put it to our use in unlimited quantities.
One single source of energy. That's what this means. Right, Testla?
Yes, that is right.
And anyone can draw on it, anyone in the world.
The Earth's outer shell, remember, goes around the whole planet. Yes. Power will belong to everyone. Like the air we breathe.
There's some financial details we ought to go over. Testla, I won't keep you any longer. I know how anxious you are to get back to your work. We'll send this stuff on to you.
It's a wonderful prospect.
Wonderful. Listen, if that lunatic can really do what he says he can do, have you any idea what's going to happen?
No, sir.
One source of energy, that's what's going to happen, just one. So anybody at all. And just stick an antenna up in his backyard and hook into it, and we won't have anything left to sell but antennas. We'll be producing the power, and anyone who feels like it can milk our cow for free. Well, no thank you, Mr. Testla. I'm not contributing to that charity. Write him a letter, Adams. Have it ready for me to sign in the morning.
Yes, Commodore. What shall I tell him?
Tell him goodbye.
Despite lack of investment and a smear campaign, Tesla continued inventing right the way through his life. In 1910, he developed the bladeless turbine. However, without manufacturing interest, it never came into full swing production. And by 1917, Tesla was declared bankrupt and the Warden Cliff Tower demolished to pay for his debts. The banking financiers had taken hold of his patents and were in the meantime making an absolute fortune of Tesla's ideas. On the inverse side of this, Einstein's theory of a photon of light had destroyed the concept of ether theory, and although Tesla was vehemently against Einstein's theories, it had already taken hold within the Western scientific thought. And the public, although benefiting from the invention of AC electricity, had forgotten where it had come from. Whilst impoverished, Tesla still had many friends, and one year they organised a 75th birthday party for him. The event was so successful that it became a regular occurrence, where Tesla would lay out a large spread and invite friends and members of the press to talk, where he would reminisce about some of his ideas and the inventions he had brought forth. Some of these ideas included a motor that could run off cosmic rays, and flying devices that could travel at immense speeds across the globe, as well as a device, a weapon, that could end all war on planet Earth. And then, in the midst of a Second World War, in 1943, Tesla dies, and with it goes the end of many of his ideas. 2 days later, the Federal Bureau of Investigation put out an order to ransack Tesla's hotel apartment and seize all of his ideas under national security. Then, 2 weeks later, they declare that there's nothing of any value. Since that time, humanity has been on a downward spiral. Without a clean energy source, they have poisoned and raped the earth and conducted countless wars for valuable resources, all based on some of Einstein's theory and the second law of thermodynamics, which precludes the existence of a perpetual motion device, and the theory of an ether. Since the 1990s, we have seen a resurgence in the concepts put forward by Nikola Tesla with the emergence of a modern internet service. To combat this, a rather despicable man, Elon Musk, took over an electric car company with Tesla's name on it, and even had the gall to change the URL name to Tesla.com. Thus, when you search for the name Nikola Tesla on the internet, more often than not, you will find Tesla Motors rather than the works of the great man.
It's an interesting contrast, like Edison versus Tesla, because interesting, the car company is called Tesla. And the reason it's called Tesla is because we use an AC induction motor, which is an architecture that Tesla developed. And the guy probably deserves a little more play than he gets in current society. But on balance, I'm a bigger fan of Edison than Tesla. Because Edison brought his stuff to market and made those inventions accessible to the world, whereas Tesla didn't really do that. Right.
Now, let us look at some of the characteristics of Nikola Tesla. Many of his friends define him as being modest, charming, a true gentleman. He was a unique blend of scientist, poet, philosopher, speaking 8 languages, and was a connoisseur of music, good food, and drink. Now, for those who have read the document for the New World Order in the Golden Age of Tartarus, will recognize several similarities between the concepts held by Nikola Tesla and the concepts being put forth for our Golden Age. The unification of science and religion into a metaphysical system of philosophy. The control of the population via technologies without the need for a master race. and the application of electromagnetics in the sphere of health instead of drugs, and the application of technology for energy and transportation as a means of enabling people to self-realize their goals, as opposed to placing the hands in pointless politicians who sit around and do nothing to help. Tesla, although born an Orthodox Christian, detested the idea of religious fanaticism. I think that this 1899 interview entitled "Everything is Light" describes him most adequately.
It's a story that Mark Twain wrote, a mysterious stranger, that wonderful book of Satan, inspired by you. The word Lucifer is more charming. Mr. Twain likes to joke. As a child, I was healed once by reading his books. When we met here and I told him about it, he was so touched that he cried. We became friends, and he often came to my lab.
Quite moving, I'm sure you would agree. Study of this text reveals much in the nature and origin of the great Luciferian, Nikola Tesla. So, I will conclude this ode with one last final thought. For Nikola Tesla, towards the end of his years, took to feeding the pigeons. And there was one pigeon in particular, and whenever he called her name, she would come. And she would sit there, and he loved that pigeon, as a man loves a woman. And for as long as that pigeon remained in his life, he felt there was purpose. Now, Mr. Testa, let me tell you, that pigeon is a familiar of mine, and your ideas have not gone to waste. They are quite safe with me and waiting for your return.